Yes.
Could you tell us a bit more how the vaccine works?
Yes.
And in particular, the vaccines you got now for colorectal cancer and breast cancer, and the ones you got
For the rest of the tumors.
everything else. But most importantly, how does it work inside?
Okay, so our immune system is incredibly efficient, and it has a, think about your immune system as you would think of the defense systems of a country. So you have the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the police department, right? The FDA, the DEA, all of those things are parts of the defense mechanism of a country. Our immune system also has many entities depending on the needs. And it is a fact that if your immune system is up to par, that you cannot develop cancer. That's why we all have heard or know of somebody, right, that smoked all their life, never took care of themselves, never did exercise, never did a thing, and they never got cancer. And that's because they were born with an immune system that was just up to par. So the reason we develop cancer is because our immune system failed at some point. And tumors are very clever, and they have many ways of putting bandages on the eyes of the immune system. And it begins with the fact that tumors arise from normal cells, from our own cells. And that's why the immune system does not recognize it at first. And so the purpose of the vaccine is to make your immune system aware of your tumor. And we do this by exploiting the capacity of what is called the dendritic cell. The dendritic cells are probably the most important element of the immune system, and they kill nothing. They don't destroy anything, but they orchestrate. So they are called antigen presenter cells. So they're presenter cells. What that means is that they acknowledge the foe. So let's say that you got infected, you cut yourself and bugs came in. They identify the bug, and then they say the specific area of the immune system to attack this bug are the white cells. So I'm going to present the bugs to the white cells, and then the white cells will go with the guns and attack. If there is no presentation, nothing happens. The guys stay there with the guns. Okay? So what we do in order to wake up the immune system to that is that we obtain antigens from your tumor, several ways. Tumor circulating cells, the tumor themselves, or old tumor cells from paraffin blocks. We obtain them, and then we activate the dendritic cell with that antigen. That is, we make that cell aware of the antigen, and then the blindfolds come down, and the dendritic cell is going to be able to say, oh wow, there's this skull here, and the specific cells to kill cancers are called killer cells. Natural killer cells. That's the technical name of the entity in our bodies to fight cancer. And when that presentation comes, then your immune system will go and attack it. And that is what we do with the dendritic cell vaccine. We bridge that with what are called LACs. So the dendritic cells are going to become aware, and they're going to start the machinery to attack the tumor. And in order for something to happen sooner than that, We also obtain from your blood natural killer cells. Nice song. Right? 80s or 70s. I don't know. I'm dating myself, right? So what we do is that we also obtain natural killer cells from the blood. And we make the presentation in the lab. And so we have about 10 million natural killer cells that need no presentation. So when we put them in your body, they are already with the guns pointing, right? And so that's a bridge that gets the process started. In the meantime, the dendritic cells that we also created in the lab, we put them in you, they get the hang of it and start activating your inside natural killer cells that have not been presented. And so basically what we're doing with the vaccine is creating an anti-tumor task force. Very specific for your tumor, very specific for you. So this therapy is an extremely personalized therapy. Cannot be applied to her or to him or to nobody. It's of no value, right? It's your own antigen and it's your own cell. So it's only given to you. Yes, ma'am.
So it seems that you have a lot of people coming back for the vaccine.
Yes.
Is there ever a time where you will never have to return for the vaccine?
Yes.
And how long do you have to be?
We have now about 15 years of experience under our belt for that. And so what we've noticed is once a patient is tumor-free or stable, that is, the tumor is no longer growing and the tumor is no longer presenting a threat to the patient. We then slow down the number of vaccines per year. That's the first step. So that instead of every 3 months, we go maybe every 6 months for a couple of times, and then every year. Once we achieve 5 years of stability or no tumor, then we graduate the patients because we feel that either the tumor will not present, again, a threat to the patient, does not present a threat to the patient, and that patient may live with that tumor until the end of their days, but not because of the tumor. So we have seen that after 5 years of stability or no tumor, that we can stop the revaccinations. And there's some memory there. The problem with tumors is that they mutate, right? And so the tumor you're treating now is not the same as 6 months from now or 3 months from now or a year from now. And it was not the same as when you started. So we always have to be on the look, but generally at 5 years of stability, we feel comfortable enough to let the patients be. And it's been quite successful. There are some cases where after 5 years the tumor reactivated, and so then we start the process again.
Mm-hmm.
So did that answer your question?
2 follow-ups. How often can you get the vaccine?
There are a number of protocols out there. And the shortest period I've ever seen is every 3 weeks. A most common is every month. We do it every 3 months. And the main reason why we do it every 3 months, for reasons, two main reasons. One is that most of our patients come from far away. And secondly, the cost. But we are, by March of next year, we're going to be able to obtain from patients so many more cells through a process called apheresis, where instead of obtaining maybe 100,000 tumor circulating cells or dendritic cells or lacs, we will be able to obtain 1 million or more. And that's going to allow us to prepare between 6 and 10 vaccines, which will significantly reduce the cost and will allow us to offer the patients 10 vaccinations, hopefully one every month, depending on how far and how easy or complicated it would be for you to come back. But once we have the vaccine, we can keep it under in liquid nitrogen. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but have you ever heard of sperm banks? Right? That's how they keep them. And so you thaw them and they're alive, completely normal. So we would keep your vaccines in liquid nitrogen so that when you come in, and it's a 1-day thing. So you can plan your visits whenever the flight is the cheapest. and we believe that the results should improve significantly and the cost would be something hopefully manageable. So the more vaccines, it has proven to be better. So that's the main reason why right now we're not doing it. It's just too expensive. And right now you would have to come and prepare the whole vaccine, the whole cost, 3-4 days. And so in the calls that we get is just that for most of our patients is not a possibility. But hopefully with these new processes. So now the difference between what we have now available for colon cancer and for breast cancer and the rest of the tumors is that we have several new toys in the laboratory. And so there is a much cleaner process to obtain the vaccine. So the possibility of you reacting to your vaccine is not your cells, correct? They're yours. Is the chemicals used in the process. And that can cause a reaction from your immune system or a rejection from those chemicals, right? And so we produce about 10 million cells and we divide the application of the 10 million cells in 3 applications. And so we give you the first application, we see how you respond, and the second and the third, and that has been the process now for many, many years. Because of these new toys and processes, now we're able to, in 2 tumors, give the 10 million in one shot. And the lax at the same time, virtually. And so we have saved our patients quite a bit of money in staying 5 days less, because this process allows us to give the 10 million in one shot. It's exactly the same vaccine. And we will have the capability in toys by the end of the year, by January, to do the same process for all of the tumors, so that every patient now will get that benefit. Okay, it's exactly the same vaccine, exactly the same number of dendritic cells. It's just that we know for a fact that the cells have been cleaned out of most of the chemicals, that we feel very comfortable in giving the whole thing in one shot. So that's the difference.
I have a question.
Yes.
Regarding my son, he was diagnosed with 1 in a million, or whatever they call it.
A very rare type of cancer.
Rare. Especially his tumors are real close to the spinal cord, that's what knocked him down. And this is the second time he's been down like this, but this one, that was closer up to the neck. Is this medicine, always treated with that area?
Yes,
Closer to that?
as far as the immune system has no barriers, right? There are many medications that have barriers. They cannot go into the brain, for instance, the blood-brain barrier. The vaccine is not affected by that. Many of the elements within our therapy do not affect the blood-brain barrier. There are some that yes, they won't get it. But I would say that about 70% of the efforts will cross the brain barrier.
Thank you, that's what I wanted to hear.
Yeah, so that's why we have been able to treat patients with central nervous system tumors, which they pose a lot of limitations. They're difficult to treat because of this. Yes.
So when you give just the one vaccine, you're not getting more of the stuff that you use to produce it. So
Yes.
there still shouldn't be a reaction because there won't be more.
No, there's less reactions. Yes.
Okay.
Less adverse reactions, and we get more when we give the 10 million in one shot.
Okay.
Yes.
Have there been any scientific studies or medical journals about the impact of COVID vaccine on cancer?
Not yet, but I'm sure they're coming. They've been suppressing a lot of information.
Yeah, if you go to the NIH, they only give cancer statistics through 2020. What happened to the last 4 years?
Yeah, they're having a big problem in hiding things. The thing that is just unavoidable was the unexplained deaths, which we've known forever, right? But the increase in the percentage after the vaccination, it's about 10%. It's extreme and very worrisome. The other thing that has been popping up is that cancers are appearing in much younger patients, and much more aggressive than before. Those things we already know, but it's an association, not the cause. Okay, they're two different things. They're bad enough when it's associated, but it's really bad if it's the cause, and that's going to be a big problem for her.
I just know I went from 98% chance you'll never have to see this cancer again, no chemo, no radiation,
Right.
and then I wind up with 8 tumors on my liver. So it seems
We have many stories like that with our patients. Many patients that were graduated already and then had the vaccine and then they're back.
well, I was here for your service on Sunday, so I took it to heart.
Amen to that.
Any other things beyond the vaccine that normal people can do to improve their immune system? Which, by the way, our oncologists back on that side of the border never talk about. They
It's
never talk
crazy. It's crazy. There are so many things that improve the quality and quantity of our immune system that have been proven absolutely, and they don't cause a thing. There's a very interesting study. Let me tell you 3 studies, just very quickly. One was done by college students, 100 students. They were taken to see movies. 50 saw a very uplifting movie, and the other one saw a very scary and depressing movie. Before they went into the theater, they took blood and they measured the quality and quantity of their immune system. The group that saw the depressing movie, right after, they came out and they drew the blood. Okay? The ones that saw the depressing movie had a significant drop in the quality and quantity of their immune system. Just 2 hours or an hour and a half. And the other group had a significant improvement in the quality and quantity of your immune system just by watching a movie. The next study that's very interesting is the quality of your tears. The chemical content of your tears changes dramatically if you cry because you're cutting an onion, if you cry because of laughter, or if you cry because of sorrow. So your immune system impacts your whole body. Events impact your whole body. And the third study is that for every minute of laughter, your immune system improves for a period of 24 hours. Just 1 minute of laughter. For a minute of anger, your immune system is depressed significantly for a period of 6 hours. Now, who has been mad for 1 minute? Measure it. It usually lasts a long time. And so I'm giving you their tips of what to do. The first guy to observe that I think was Norman Cousins. I may have the name wrong, but this is a guy that was diagnosed with cancer, went to see the doctor, and the doctor told him there's nothing that can be done. So we're going to give you chemo. Your hair is going to fall off. You're going to be vomiting. And the guy said, but I have no chance. No, you haven't. Well, then I'll just go home. He went home and he started looking at the, in Spanish we call it the fat and the thin guy. Right? Remember those old black and white?
Or on Harvey.
Yeah. So he looked at those and saw them all. So he went to this, it was at the time where you had to rent videos. And he saw the Three Stooges. Finished that. Well, the fact, and then Lucille Ball, and then a year passed by and he went to see his doctor. Cancer was gone. He laughed his tumor away. So, what can you do as a normal person? Well, just be more merry, more happy. Music, tremendously immune stimulating. Even oldies like meditation. In my view, our life is completely dependent on emotional reactions, isn't it? Everything is an emotional reaction. And our emotions are going to be, normally we call them positive or negative. I don't view it that way. I think that, for instance, we normally would tag love as a positive emotion, right? And anger as a negative emotion. But if you get angry that people are not eating and you do something about it, well, that turned out to be pretty functional, right? And if you fall in love with a crook, well, that's going to be pretty dysfunctional. So I classify emotions as functional or dysfunctional. And the functionality of your emotion is going to depend on your spiritual fortitude. That's why you read in the Bible that for me to live is God and to die is gain. It is what? That I have a peace that surpasses all understanding. Because spiritually I'm so strong. Paul said, I'm content if I'm sick, or if I'm healthy, if I have money, or not just I'm okay with it, I'm content. So, what can you do? Strengthen your relationship with God. thank God for everything, which is not easy, right? Getting up in the morning and say, thank you God for this cancer is not easy. But those things are going to strengthen your immune system tremendously and immeasurably. So watch funny movies, spend time with your family, try not to think about the cancer, which is not easy, but if you try, you can. And I think those things are as effective or even more effective than the things that we're doing here. They're not easy to do. Right? It's not easy to say I'm very happy when my x-rays showed something different. But we were talking yesterday about understanding God's sense of humor and sense of justice is quite difficult. But there's a purpose for everything, and we don't understand it now. And if we just relax and wait, things will happen. But it's scientifically proven that those things improve the quality and quantity of your immune system.
Thank you.
Yes.
Do you have any recommendations for the 90-day program at home? When you take the supplements home and the diets that you have to do, are there any recommendations for things to do or not do specifically that might alter the program?
The more you adhere to the program, the better the results are going to be. And it's not an easy program, okay? It takes a lot of commitment to do it. And I feel that the most complicated one is the diet. Because diet is very emotional to us. And that's why we've worked so hard with a diet here, scientifically and nutritionally, and the actual preparation with chefs. Because many times the question is, well, what is the best diet for a cancer patient? It's an easy answer, okay? Because scientifically it's been proven that low glycemic vegan diet is the best diet for a cancer patient. When we've done that and we've established that and done it here, we've seen, and that's why we've made so many changes, we've seen that right about the 3-month period, the patient says, if this is what I have to eat to survive, I'd just rather die. So that's not the best diet for you. And so there are two types of people in the world. The ones that are like the Apostle Peter, and the ones that are like the Apostle Paul. So Paul was a square guy, black and white. If you're like that, and you say, if these green peas is the only thing that I can eat forever, I'm fine with it. Then you're fine with that diet. Most of us are like Peter, right? We say, I will never deny you, Lord. Right? With such conviction. And the next day, you're all over the map. And so, like me, I would come to the conclusion in 3 months that for to me to live is Christ and to die is gain, and this is what I have to eat. So our diet is more lenient because of that, but still is low glycemic and very low in animal protein. So that's of the long-term program, the most complicated is the diet. And I think it has an additional component of just eating the best thing for you and the worst thing for the cancer, right? We did a revision of about 10 clinical trials that we did over the years. We were celebrating our 62 year of existence. And the common denominating factor for the long-term survivors was the ones that kept their diet. And I found it really interesting because it didn't make that much sense to me that the diet would be such a determining factor. You know, more than vitamin C, more than lateral. So I came to the conclusion that it is also messaging. Those of us who are married, we know about the impact of mixed messages, right? It's not good. And we have a constant communication between us and ourselves, right? We're constantly communicating. And I'll give you an example. I had a patient, a yuppie from New York, and so they sent him home to die, and he decided to come here. And I said, I have nothing to do, so I'm going to do that. And so he starts the program, and I have a place where I go, and it's a little hidden corner where I have my car and where I can be. So I'm going through this passage, and I get and open the door, and I find this guy smoking. And he thought, I'm hidden here in this corner, nobody's gonna see me. And here, oh, the guy's continued. What are you doing? Well, I can't stop smoking. He says, well, you know, what's happening is that you're giving very mixed messages to yourself. What do you mean by that? Well, weren't you in New York and they told you that you were gonna die? And you said, I have nothing to lose, I'm gonna go to those quacks in Mexico and see what they can do for me? So what was the message then to your body? I'm willing to do anything, right? To save you. And now you're smoking. What do you think your body's thinking? Is this guy, do you want to kill me or do you want to save me? You're not helping yourself by giving mixed messages. So I believe very strongly that the reason why the ones that kept their diet for a long time are faring better is because 3 times a day they're giving a very strong positive message to their bodies. And they're saying, I'm willing to eat all of this instead of hamburgers and fries to keep you alive. That's a hunch, okay? There's no scientific studies about that. But I truly believe that it makes a big difference when you're constantly giving strong messages that you care for yourself. Yes.
So, if you decide you can't stay with that vegetarian diet, and you decide to eat some meat,
Yes.
of the 4 food groups, which one's the most destructive, which one?
That's a good question. Fish would be the least, then poultry, and then it's downgrades.
So the fat content in beef is very destructive.
More than the fat content, because I mean, fish can be very fatty, is the quality of the fats, the quality fats, the omega-3s and the omega-6s, and the combination of them are much better from fish than from beef, for instance, and much less pork. Yes.
Follow up on that. If you get grass-fed beef, does that change the equation?
It does, because at least there's no hormones, and hormones are really bad. But still, the quality of the fatties, the fatty acids, is much better in fish than in beef. Because there are fish that are also contaminated.
Yeah, I guess the other side is, if you get, is there any such thing as a good farm-raised salmon?
Very difficult to agree with that. You have to go very far away to get fish that are in waters that are not contaminated.
You're not sure what they're putting in their feed.
It's yeah.
What
It's-
about
it's-
deer? Deer meat?
Deer is probably the best of the mammals because they're usually in the wild and
Yeah.
they don't get to be too exposed to many chemicals. But still, the amount has to be limited. Yes.
I have a question, it's regarding like a supplement, like a fish dip.
Omegas?
Yeah, omegas. Is that still good?
Yeah, those are very good.
Anything that has to do with, food supplements?
Yeah. So the best fatty acids you will find in fish or in nuts.
Oh, yeah, that's, because, my son, you know, the way he's in the wheelchair,
Mm-hmm.
and, fish is, pretty strong. That's what we asked for this, my wife's coming. Yeah. Well, so it's good, it's not bad, all right. And what about the running?
Turmeric?
Turmeric.
Turmeric is very good. The problem with turmeric is that it is very poorly absorbed by our gut. So you have to take a lot of it in order to really make a difference. We are, I think, hopefully within the next few months, we will have our nanoparticle turmeric. And so in some of the products we've tested already
Yes.
with volunteers that they took it orally and IV. And when it's a nanoparticle, a good size, very small size, the concentration in blood after 2 hours is almost the same as IV.
Because since my son, you know, got this, what he has, that's almost 8 years. That's the first thing I would recommend him for the tumors, you know, close tumors, that's
Yeah.
kind of one of the top ones. So he's been at it for a while, you know,
Uh-huh.
I will give it his, we try to mix it up.
Good.
But then we do get the supplements sometimes,
Yes, yes.
because, it means too much. We gotta get it.
The amount that we usually need to impact the tumor
Mhm.
is really high in comparison to the amounts of a good balanced diet.
Yes, yes, yes. And it takes a long time to get that.
Yeah.
What about black seed oil?
Flaxseed oil is very good.
Black.
Black?
Black seed oil.
I have no clue what that is. From what seeds are those?
We had read a study they had done at MD Anderson, and they would drop the black seed oil on the tumor, and it would.
Wow, I'll check that because I have not seen anything with black seed. What?
Tastes terrible.
It tastes terrible.
Uh-huh. And what if you encapsulate it?
The amount that you had to encapsulate it was like you had to
Goopy, isn't it? Like
you had to do like it's like 12 or 15 capsules
Capsules.
that you had to make.
So it's a very work intensive
Yeah.
time intensive.
black cumin seed oil.
Black?
Yeah.
Never heard of that.
Let me tell you why you haven't heard.
Wow. I'll check it out. I wouldn't dissuade you from that. Because usually from seeds, you get a very, very good omega-3 and omega-6 combination that's very beneficial for us.
I have a little story about that, but
You've heard of that?
a friend of mine, well, Connor, he told me in the, those pyramids out there where they had those, king tuts and they found that black seed
Really?
on the top.
On the
Yeah, that's
the
something
sarcophagus.
far back there with that black seed. But we're scared to use it cause, you don't know what.
It tells you how long it lasts too.
So, if they used then,
Yes.
they were pretty smart, so.
There was a very interesting study that in Greece the amount of people per square mile is the highest in the world. The population density, and so there's virtually no place for anything. And so one of the things that is very limited is the amount of space that you have to be buried in. And because there's no more place, you can only be in your grave, I think 5 or 6 years. And then they take you out and they give the remains to the family, or you write them, or whatever you want to do. But if somebody else wants to be buried and not incinerated, you have to remove one for the other. And because many Americans retire in Greece, they found that after 5 or 6 years, they open up the grave of the American, and they're fresh as a lettuce. They don't decompose as fast as the other one. And they found a tremendous amount of preservatives that they consume in food. You consume so many that you don't disintegrate. So and that's what reminded me. If the pharaohs would have known that, it would have saved a lot of bandages.
Yeah, we know they say pretty much.
But I mean, the impact is so enormous that in Greece they had problems getting rid of bodies of Americans. Yes, sir.
Is there any type of like personal hygiene that's specific for someone with cancer, as far as like shampoos, toothpaste, things like that to be using?
Things. Let me tell you, when I was in my 30s and 40s, I was very keen into looking into how to be the cleanest possible. I traveled a lot, and I would travel with my Tupperware. And I became a nuisance to myself and everybody else. And then I read a report that said that in the clothes that you wear, there's about 7,000 chemicals to which you were not designed to live with. And I went naked. And that didn't work out very well. It's impossible to, in this day and age, to not be close to some sort of chemical that's going to be bad for you. Just impossible. And it's a daunting thing, and if you think about it, your immune system is going to go all the way down because you can't do it. So my recommendation is that you do the best that you can, and still enjoy life, and work on things to counter with a better immune system, and so the things that we were talking about before.
Sure.
It's just impossible.
Follow-up question to that, what about sunscreen?
Sunscreens do have, everything has a number of chemicals that could, shampoos are probably the least, but deodorants with aluminum and stuff like that. And so there are studies that show that women that use this have a higher incidence of breast cancer. You will find a link to everything, phones. So, I mean, even if you lived in the Himalayas, you wouldn't get away from it. So I think that we have to do the opposite. We have to strengthen our immune system so that we can withstand the onslaught that this world is throwing upon us. Because it's just not possible to be away from them. Not possible. And so for a while we were recommending women not to dye their hair. No women would come. We had male patients for a while. There are things that you just can't can stay away.
It worked in my hair.
I have time for one more question.
Have y'all ever looked into, mistletoe?
Yes, we used mistletoe for many, many years. And it's proven to be quite effective. But my father did a prospective study, wow, early 70s, with about 2,000 cases on each group. And Latro was so much better that he decided just to continue with Latro. Not that the mistletoe didn't work, just that Latro was so much better. So mistletoe is an option there.
Can I ask one follow-up
Yes.
question on the Elantra?
Mm-hmm.
Elantra has such a bad name in the US,
Yes.
but there are global studies that support its effectiveness.
The main studies were done at the Sloan Kettering.
What would your father was? Did they,
And lately
everybody
there's-
just wash their hands of it after that?
Yeah, and new studies have shown that it is quite effective. The scary thing is that the mode of action is killing the cells through cyanide intoxication, but it's very minute amounts.
Doesn't chemo do that too?
No, chemo is much worse. Chemo is much worse. Okay, well,
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
thank you very much. I'll be busy today, but tomorrow I'll start seeing
Only one more question.
Yes.
Not that much. A little bit of chemo right here. That gets out of the system and it goes away.
There are some chemotherapeutical agents
Mhm.
that will never leave your
Never
system,
leave.
but they're small.
That's small. Yeah.
There are some negative impacts of some chemotherapy that even if the chemotherapy is completely cleaned out,
Mhm.
that will never leave. That's also fortunately not too common. So, but in general, you can detoxify. Thank you very much, Doctor.